You're great. So I just want to start off, like, tell me a bit about your background, your family. Just give me a little insight into who you are.
I was raised in New York. I was born in New York City. My family was from the Bronx, big Yankee fans.
Okay.
We lived in the suburbs. I was there, and I came out to St. Louis for law school. I went to Washington University
Mhm.
School of Law. I always thought I'd be a big litigator. That was sort of like the path that I expected to be on, but I wound up getting very involved in the running, the management of our practice.
Mhm.
And so I've spent most of my career in just sort of building the practice. We've got, Brown and Crouppen, we've got a little over 250 people
Great.
now. We do, obviously PI and pharmaceutical and all the stuff that everyone else does, some work comp, nursing home.
How long have you been there?
I've been with the firm for 19 years.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, I would have never thought I'd be in a firm that long. It was not the first firm I went to. It took me a couple of places before I found my fit. And but once I was there, I really did know in the first week that I had found my forever home, as they
Yeah.
call it in the pet adoption world.
Yeah.
So
No, that's how I feel about my company as well. Like, I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm good. So
yeah,
what made you just fall in love with Brown and Crouppen?
you know what? I think that it was more like when I first got there, I understood the business almost intuitively. And
Mm-hmm.
so it felt very comfortable to me. And the people that were running the firm at the time, the main guys, Terry Crouppen and Ron Brown, they were so receptive to good ideas. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
care where they came from. They didn't care how long you'd been there. If you thought you had a better way to do something, they were open to it. And so very early on, I just had a lot of ideas about infrastructure and growth, and they were just so supportive, and they let me run with it. And that I sort of just carved my own path at the firm by taking on projects that I thought would make a difference. And I had some very good early successes, so they gained a lot of confidence and trust in my judgment. And then after that, we were just off to the races. So there was no looking back.
So were you the one that started pitching, let's do some really interesting marketing, let's do some of these videos? Like, how did
You
that
know, it was not me. What happened was Cool Fire, the guy who works at Cool Fire, who's sort of our main connection there, Jeremy. Um, he actually, this is a funny story. He was doing some commercials for a local pizza, local frozen pizza, and the guy who worked for the pizza company is a nephew of Terry Crouppen, and they were doing this campaign called Real Confessions, and they were using a bunch of local talent, the local celebrities, to sort of do these Real Confession pizza commercials. So the guy had said, well, those guys at Brown and Crouppen, I'm sure I can get Terry Crouppen to come down and do this. And when they called Terry, Terry said, well, let me bring my two partners, not Ron. Ron's kind of it does his own thing, but let me bring Andy and Ed. It might be fun for the three of us to do something together. So we went and we shot these pizza commercials. And when we were doing it, we were having such a fun time with each other, and everyone was being kind of funny and interesting. And Jeremy was like, you guys need to get this personality to the public. They need to see this side of you guys. You guys have to come up with some kind of your own programming that lets the public see how kind of down to earth and funny you guys are. And so we just did a lot of brainstorming as to what could be ideas. And of course, at first, he was thinking it would really center more around Terry, because he's always been the face of our firm.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so quirky and had so many like little ideas on things that Jeremy was like, well, we got to do something with you. You need to have something, because you're a content machine.
Yeah.
Just as I was rattling off ideas. So that's what happened. We wound up developing a few shows, Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches,
Mm-hmm.
which I love doing with them. And that really is more the spirit of that first thing, of
Mm-hmm.
just the three of us, having fun. We did the animated show, Terry's Safety Squad, which did really well last year. That one won an Emmy. And then Ed Versus, of course, is the show that I did, do on my own.
So when y'all were brainstorming, how did you figure out that talking about law wouldn't be the route to go for your advertising?
Yeah, that actually, at first, there's always that pressure you feel to say, well, we have to talk about the law, don't we? I mean, we're
Right.
lawyers. And so that's why, I kind of felt like most people don't need you today. I mean, they don't. Better than 99% of the people that are watching television or on the internet, they just don't need a lawyer today. So
Hmm.
you can choose to try to speak to the less than 1% that do need a lawyer today. And we do that with direct response commercials.
Hmm.
Or if you're going to pay the money and produce something, maybe you can put something on that the other 99.9% of the people might actually want to watch. And it's pretty clear to see the kind of stuff that works on the internet.
Yeah.
People like food, and they like learning, and they like hacks, and they like pets, and they like people reviewing things and critiquing things and offering perspectives, all those kind of things. And so it was really from that that we realized this particular type of advertising is not a direct response advertising. This is not the bottom of the funnel. There's a little sweet spot where a lot of people talk about branding. You have
Hmm.
all these people and they're on a million billboards, and we do that too. And that's the highest level of branding. That's just brand awareness.
Right.
But I believe that there's a layer of below that, or deeper than that, which is where you find brand affection, brand love. Okay, the first question is, have they heard about you? Yes. What do they think about you? Have they developed an opinion of you? And that's where people go, oh, well, how could they? We're just on a million billboards. You got to figure out, how are they going to, start adding some adjectives to your name, and what are those adjectives going to be? And that's where this type of advertising really comes in. So the words we like are knowledgeable, down to earth,
Hmm.
approachable,
Hmm.
relatable, likable. Like, those are the adjectives that we really like,
Hmm.
and those are the adjectives that we get from this type of campaign.
Well, it's clearly, I mean, done very well. I mean, I love your response about brand affection, because I really think that speaks to what y'all are trying to do. You've become pretty popular. I know that you get recognized. You have over 1 million views on multiple of your videos. So
Yeah.
when did you realize that this was catching on? When did you start getting recognized? Tell me about that.
It was the second video in the series, because I've now done 15 episodes of Ed Versus, and we've
Hmm.
done, I think, 13 of Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches. It was the second episode, Ed Versus Cereal, where all of a sudden the thing just sort of exploded. I had no idea. I never had something take off like that, where
Hmm.
we got, tens of thousands of comments, and 12 or 13,000, shares on that. And it was getting around everywhere. I started getting contacted by, radio programs. I was going onto radio shows and mixing cereals on the radio. Everything now is streamed. So even though it's the radio, you can tune in on YouTube and watch that stuff. I got contacted by a news station on National Cereal Day, and they wanted me on there to, mixing. It just took off. Missouri Lawyers Weekly ran a piece on it. Why is this lawyer talking about cereal? And it really, from there, then it, not to say it never put any pressure on me, because it really didn't. I mean,
Right.
I can't control what people are going to do with it. I come up with ideas, I execute them. If I'm amused by it, I say, good, let's do it. If I'm not amused by it, I don't do it. And then, the public does what the public does.
So talk to me about the production about those videos, because they're really well produced and they're really well
Mhm.
edited, and I think that adds a lot. So and I know that costs a lot of money. You don't have to tell me how much it costs, but when did y'all decide this is something that we want to invest in?
Well, during those conversations with Jeremy, when we listed out a few shows we wanted to do, we knew it was going to be an expensive overall endeavor. But it
Hmm.
was one of those things, if you're going to create a whole channel and a whole entertainment platform, and of course, you really have to experiment a little and see what works, what does the public seem to like, and then double down on that stuff, and don't try to force something down their throat that they clearly don't want. So, at the early portion, there was a little bit of just figuring out what's working and what's not, and we'll just keep doing what's working. um, but it does cost, but we do find ways of controlling the costs. When I shoot those, for example, I'll shoot them in studio, and I'll always shoot them, two at a time at least.
Okay.
So one day I did three, but I'll never do that again. That was a mistake.
How many
Uh,
hours does it take to put one of those together?
Here's the process.
Okay.
Someday I'll be sitting around and I'll start having some musings about a topic. Like,
Hmm.
for example, I'm working on one now, Ed versus restrooms. And
Okay.
that's just one of those things that I have a lot of feelings about it. I've got a lot of shame and hangups. and I suspect a lot of other people do too. And so I'll just pull out my phone and I start jotting down notes, little observations that I've had, and I just want to get them all out in almost like an outline form. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll send it over to like Jeremy, and I'll say, "Does this look like anything? Do I have something here? Is this something?" And
Right.
he'll look at it and he'll go, "Oh man, that's gold." And then he'll say, "Let's do a production call with our DP, our director of photography, because he always has ideas of what might make it come to life, like he did with airplanes in our airplane video. I thought it was just going to be me sitting there with two empty chairs and saying, 'Imagine we're on an airplane.' He was the one that said, I can actually build a little something and make it look amazingly good. And he really took it to the next level, and that's the one that won the Emmy.
Yeah.
So I give him a lot of credit for that, because I don't think it would have gotten that kind of attention if it was just me sitting in between two empty chairs. So then we talk it out. It'll go on the production schedule, and I'll go and usually to shoot all my footage. Usually doesn't even take an hour. I don't do like the snacks video. I didn't do multiple takes. I did one take.
Just,
I I knew, because I know I'm going to sit there and edit it. So I
yeah.
figure whatever I don't like, I'll just cut out in the edit. When you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with food, you don't want to have to do multiple takes, because then you got to clear all the food, start all over again. And I mean, I'm not making a movie here. I'm doing these
Mm-hmm.
on the fly. So I don't read, I don't script anything. I just go through the outline and just do my little bits. I don't always do them in the order that you see them. I'll just do them in any order, just get through it. And then what'll happen is my editor will send me a string cut where it just, she just put all the footage together,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can see what we have. And then, once she cuts out all the extraneous talking and nonsense, there's maybe 20 minutes of actual footage. And then her and I sit together and we just start editing it together. We start saying, all right, where do we want to start this? What's the opener? You learn a lot about the viewing habits of people in digital. You know that you have to have a grabber in the first 4 seconds, because they can skip your ad at the 5 second mark. So you got to get them engaged in the first 4 seconds.
Did your team do that research beforehand, or was this kind of trial and error?
Uh, well, of course, Coolfire had a lot of experience, so they were
Right.
able to lend us their thoughts. But of course, there's always trial and error too, because the where you really find the trial and error is what's the right length of the video. Some people are out there saying, "Oh, don't do more than 2 minutes." The reality of it is that when you're paying for, on YouTube to run things as an ad, they don't care from the cost standpoint if you're running a 2 minute ad or a 6 minute ad or an 8 minute ad.
Right.
So what we learned was we look at the view times. And when we have longer videos, you're keeping people's attention for a lot longer. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll put out a video that's 8 minutes, and we'll have an average view time of close to 5 minutes. And as an average, that's just tremendous. Imagine in this day and age, keeping people's attention for an average of 5 minutes is, you don't get a lot of things that you can do that with. You got
That is so interesting that you say that, because I'll be honest, I hadn't like heard about y'all, or knew what you were doing until I got all these submissions for the Golden Gavels. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to sit here and watch all these videos, and they're so long. How's this gonna work? But then I would end up watching all of them pretty much and enjoying it. And I just thought I was like, I wonder if they did that on purpose. And so that's very interesting that y'all were measuring it by the video view time, and that it is incredible to capture someone's attention for 5 minutes plus. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about like the YouTube stuff is the advanced metrics that you get to really see, because for one, you can really be very picky about who even gets served up your video.
Right.
So it's unlike television where you got to put it out to everybody, even though
Hmm.
a lot of those eyeballs would never hire you. Even if they needed you, they wouldn't hire you.
Right.
But on YouTube, you can really slice and dice the exact group that you're going after through a lot of different ways that they let you pick your audience. And you can also choose not to annoy people. You can have it where your video is only going to come up once or twice during its promotional run. They don't watch it. They don't they don't watch it. That's perfectly fine. The other nice thing is YouTube won't even count something as a view or charge you unless they watch at least 30 seconds or the entire length of the video if it's less than 30
Oh.
seconds. So there's a lot of free advertising that can be had on YouTube,
Mhm.
even for people that drop out in the first 15 seconds just because it's not their cup of tea. But once they stay past 30, that's when, that's when it becomes a thing. But I mean, heck, if they can watch for at least 30 seconds, that's as good as watching a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
And remember too, that even though I may not talk about being a lawyer, I do in some of the ads, if it fits, if it makes
Mhm.
sense. Like when I did the Batman one, obviously I was analyzing the laws that were being broken in Batman,
Right.
or Home Alone. Same thing. It was kind of a little bit more of a legal analysis. Some of the other ones I'll reference being a lawyer, like the nap video, and then the snacks video. I never even say it, but when it shows up on Facebook, clearly it's coming from Brown and Crouppen and the law firm, and most people in our markets know us. So it really doesn't matter if I sit there plugging a law firm. The other thing you got to understand, Carson, is that you're trying to build up your subscribers and you're building up your Facebook followers,
Mhm.
and you build those lists up with these videos. These are the ones that get people to subscribe
Mhm.
and to follow. But then you feed them a little of the legal medicine that
Mhm.
they also wind up getting because they are subscribing or they are following. So they may have come for the Ed versus elevators, but while they're waiting for the next Ed versus video, they're getting all of our little updates and things that we do that are, maybe much more related to the law.
So you clearly track the metrics in the digital space. I mean, it sounds like to the T, and tailor things towards it. What type of metrics do you use for your other advertising, and how have you been able to track the videos entering
Here's
into the actual work day-to-day space?
here's attribution is always, as you know, probably the biggest challenge that the big
Mhm.
marketers have.
Mhm.
Because there's no perfect system. And the reason there's no perfect system for attribution is that it's never really one thing that
Right.
gets you a client. It's a journey. And so what I do, what I believe in is, I believe, you may have heard me talk about this and other things, but, there's a journey that every person has to go through, whether you view it as a funnel, or you just view it as a path, a winding road. But everybody who's ever hired any business has to go through the exact same process. It's first, they need to know who you are. Then they need to know what you do.
Mhm.
Then they need to form an opinion of you. Are they competent? Are they likable? Whatever that opinion is that they're going to form. Then they have to need you, and then they have to actually call you or make
Right.
contact with you, hire you. They have to go through that. So I think the mistake most marketers make is all they ever care about is the bottom of the funnel. How many cases did I get from this? How many cases did I get from that? The problem is a lot of your advertising isn't designed for the very bottom of the funnel. A lot of your advertising is designed for each of those, one of those 5 phases, sometimes more. So if a person were to say, how many cases did you get from your billboards? If people ever actually just said, hey, how'd you hear about us? Oh, I saw your billboard, and they only count those for attribution, nobody in their right mind would do billboards. It would
Right.
never be a value proposition. It would, and yet everybody does them. And the reason is because the measure on a billboard is, has it created greater brand awareness? If you
Mhm.
really want to know if your billboards are working, before you put up any of them, you should do some consumer testing to check on the recognition of your name recognition.
Mhm.
Well, they do this in politics all the time. They start a
Right.
candidate off. Where's their name recognition as of today? Then you do your billboard campaign, let it run for a while, 3 months, 6 months. Then you go back and you do the same testing. Have you raised your brand awareness? And if you have, that's how you attribute a successful billboard campaign. With this type of thing, what we're trying to do is measure it through engagement.
Mhm.
If we're trying to create affection, likability, relatability, approachability, then what you really want to look at for this kind of advertising is how engaged are people? How many
Mhm.
people are sharing your content? How many of them are commenting on it? How many of them are hitting one of those reaction emojis? And what are those reaction emojis? We know that haters have no problem coming out and commenting on things on the internet. It's easy to
Mhm.
get the haters.
Oh yeah.
Anybody can get the haters. But to get the love, much more difficult. So when you start putting out videos and you see people expressing real affection and feeling comfortable contacting you, and I have a lot of people that'll private message me with legal questions just because I've created an approachability.
Oh
I've
yeah.
welcomed it. The thing is, though, you can't just let it go at the videos. If you're trying to create engagement, then you need to hold up your end of the engagement. And if they comment, you need to react back.
Mhm.
Ideally, comment back, thank them, ask a question, build a relationship. I now have, you know, tens of thousands. I think I can look it up, but I think my videos have gotten over 50,000 comments, you know,
Oh
and
yeah.
I
I was looking
reply to these things, and
at
then I've got a relationship.
yeah,
Now, how many other lawyers have they gone back and forth with in their life? They've got me.
yeah. You're their person.
Yeah.
So interesting. I mean, I just love the marketing that y'all done. So if you were to describe your advertising strategy, like if you could encapsulate it, what would it be?
I would say that we do everything, and
Hmm.
we do everything with purpose.
Hmm.
We're bold. We're lucky that we've grown and we've been successful, and that does afford us a little bit more opportunity to take chances and experiment. Um, I think that one thing that we've really done in all of our advertising is we've stayed true to who we are as individuals.
Hmm.
It keeps us very genuine. Genuine is easier, quite frankly, because you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. And from what we've seen in market research, the public responds best to something that's genuine. They have a bullshit detector. They can smell anything that's fake or phony, just doesn't sound right to them. They're highly suspicious. But if you're just honestly out there being yourself,
Hmm.
and man, they can detect that just as easily, and they love it.
Oh, I mean, clearly, like I said earlier, when we started this, I just think of you as a treasure, and it's really because I feel like I know you, even though we've only met once in person, but because I've watched you so much in those videos, you really get a sense of your personality. And I know if I was in the St. Louis area and needed a lawyer, I mean, duh, that's somebody I want to go have a beer with. That's the relationship I want with my
Exactly. And I actually get invited to a lot of beers. You know, a lot
lawyer.
of guys will contact me and they just say, "You just seem like somebody that it would be fun to hang out with," and which is a great. I mean, I can't think of a better compliment really than that.
And you don't
Um,
typically get that. Lawyers don't typically have that reputation or that stereotype of somebody like, oh, I just want to hang out with, and so it's nice.
yeah, but you know, it's so funny because people will ask my family, or you know, they'll say, "Is that what is he really like that or whatever?" And like my sister will tell people, "Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
you know, you don't need a camera there. That could be edited at a table on any given night, just going on and on about something."
So you said you always wanted to be a litigator, but I mean, I just feel like your creativity is so out of the box, and you're such a character in that way. You never considered going down into some type of the entertainment industry at all. You've always wanted to be a litigator.
You know, it's really strange. I think it was always kind of instilled in me from early on that I would be a lawyer.
Hmm.
And so there were times, because I always enjoyed, you know, I was raised on comedy and entertainment. So there were some times where I thought, well, you know, maybe I should consider being like an agent or an entertainment lawyer. But then I thought, well, why would I want to get that close to it, but then not be on the fun side of it, you know? And then
Hmm.
look, life works in weird ways.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd have told me a year ago that I would have 2 Emmy Awards, I would
It's
have been
crazy.
like, that's nuts. How is that even going to happen? And then, but here I am a year later, and they're
Are you?
sitting
Do you think
and they're
you're the
sitting right
only?
over there.
You think you're the only lawyer that has Emmy awards?
I don't know, maybe, probably.
You
I
need to do some
mean,
research on that.
you know. Well, and my partners have them too now, because you know they're down as producers of my
Yeah.
stuff, which is fair because the money does come from somewhere. But yeah, yeah, and we did the PSA together that won the other Emmy, the Terry Safety Squad. We were all very involved in the writing, and I do the voice of the bad guy. I don't know if you've ever watched the animated
I
ones.
have. It's been a while, but yeah,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
watched it. I watched
That
a lot of your stuff.
and you know that to me is was one of the most fun things to do, because I've always wanted to do voiceover work. So getting to
Mhm.
be the voice of the bad guy in that, and being like in a real sound studio, and you know that you got a lot of respect for voiceover people, because it's not enough to just be able to come up with a voice. You got to be able to do that voice doing everything. That voice has got to be able to talk loud or soft or sing, you know, and it's I'm really impressed by the people that can do that. It's quite an art.
So I want to switch over to the topic that everyone's on their mind, and is the pandemic. So I want to, how's the business been affected? How are y'all getting through it? What's going on?
Luckily, you know, my partner Andy was very on top of the virus long before anybody else seemed to be. So back in January, he basically we spoke to each of the department heads and said, "There's a chance that in the next couple months we may have to be working from home." And everybody was shocked because nobody had really been following it.
January, yeah.
And he said, I need every department to figure out right now what it would take to do all of their operations remotely. And we ordered a lot of Chromebooks because we weren't set up for that yet, setting up the accounting team. They all thought, why not? It's a worthwhile exercise. They never thought we'd use it. And then as the news started to change, started to seem maybe more and more realistic. And then we started running drills with different people home on different days to make sure they could do it. And then on March 13th, we pulled the plug and said, that's it, we're home, guys.
Yeah.
And everyone was nervous at first, but it was pretty seamless. Everyone did an amazing job. Now, of course, when driving drastically reduced from March through May, obviously auto accidents went, which, is good for the people that weren't in accidents, but for law firms that rely on auto accidents as new cases took a tremendous hit in the auto accident field. So that was a little nerve-wracking, but we were committed to not laying anybody off. So we didn't lay anybody off, and we just kept plugging away. We have weekly meetings through Zoom where all 250 of us every Thursday get together. And every Thursday we hire a celebrity from Cameo, that website Cameo.
I've heard about this, yes.
Yes, and so at the end of every meeting, it keeps people engaged. And then at the end of every meeting, somebody comes on and gives the firm words of encouragement, keeps us feeling bonded and focused. And we've had over, I guess, how many? It's been now 30 something. And so it's quite a collection of cameos from everybody from Snoop Dogg to Boy George and athletes and stars and just crazy. But
that is so cool. That would definitely be interesting.
you gotta keep morale up. We've been very flexible with all of our workers. We know they have to balance their families, and that's like a point of pride for us, is recognizing that like the work is obviously very important, but it's not the only thing that's important. We got to keep our people sane and balanced. And so we've provided just a lot of support for people, giving a lot of people great flexibility while their kids are going back to school. We have never reopened the office. We knew that it was going to get worse before it got better. I was shocked when so many people were going back in. And we told people early on, nobody is going to be asked to go back, at least until next year. We may make it safe and allow people to go back if they really need that environment to do their job, but we're not going to ask anybody to go back. And so, because we want the people to have predictability. That said, one of the big challenges too, I think a lot of firms are so worried about new cases. That was not my first concern. My first concern was existing cases where people were still treating with their doctors.
Right.
At the time, we had over 1,000 open files that were in the treating phase. And in my feeling was, if those people aren't able to continue their treatment, their cases are going to go, and having 1,000 cases drop off would be devastating to any business. So the little drop off in the weekly signups was a secondary concern, but I felt like that was a little bit out of our control. People aren't driving, they're not driving. Keeping people focused on their medical was our first concern, and we worked with all of the providers, and we made sure people continued treating. And where telehealth was the only option, we made sure people were utilizing telehealth, and we kept those 1,000 cases that were treating through their health process. That, to me, when we look back on this, I think will be the smartest thing we did and the most successful thing that we did. That'll keep our practice full steam ahead.
Interesting. That's a very interesting approach. But it makes sense. Makes total sense. So personally, how's the pandemic changed you?
I was always a homebody.
Me too.
So for me, I don't know that it's had too big of an impact. I'll be honest. I think what's had a bigger impact, and I don't want to really get into these things, but I've had a much harder time struggling with humanity and seeing what all of these, the times that we're living in and what it's brought out in people. And I really try hard to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I know that everybody primarily operates out of fear. So not to pass judgment on people, but some people make themselves feel better by doing everything the safe way. Other people make themselves feel better by putting themselves in a state of denial. And it really is all about them just trying to make themselves feel better and feel safer. And so I really bend over backwards psychologically to just give everybody some space and understand that everyone is just doing the best they can to juggle all of these things. But I will say that it has drained me quite a bit. It's taken a lot of my personal energy to just remind myself to be that tolerant and accepting of everybody.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree with you, and I'm 100% in your, because it has been emotionally draining the past few months with the quarantine, with everything that has happened with the bipartisanship, and I mean just everything that's been happening in our country on top of being isolated and everything being extreme right now. There's been weeks where I'm just like, I need to turn off the TV and just
Yeah.
really like refocus, because it gets tough for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I put the snacks video out. I thought I really wanted a topic to hit right now that was just fun, that was not
Hmm.
politics, that was not virus, that was not election, that was not controversial, that people could just sit back, that had a little nostalgia to it, and also a little bit of an appreciation for the simple things in life, which
Yeah.
I think right now people maybe have a better appreciation for. And I suspect people have been doing quite a bit of snacking. So I
Yeah.
thought it would, for right now, it would maybe check all of the boxes, and it has, because the people that have liked it, a lot of them have become followers and friends and fans, and I see that they come from all sides of the political spectrum. And I
Mhm.
say, you know what? If I've created something in this world that this person can like and this person can also like, then I feel like I've done something that a lot of other people have not been able to do.
That is absolutely true, Ed. And maybe that's why no, I know that's why those videos are so enjoyable to watch, because everybody can enjoy them. Everybody likes them. They're just relatable.
Yeah,
So I like it.
just the simple stuff.
Okay, so I want to do some rapid fire fun questions with you real quick.
Okay.
So these have nothing to do with the law. So if you were a drink, what would it be?
Shirley Temple.
Why?
Sweet and a little bubbly and no alcohol.
Okay, so Shirley, okay, yeah, Shirley Temples don't have alcohol, but I have a fun story about Shirley Temple. So my first job, I got it from Charles Barkley, and he was best friends with my best friend's mother, and we went out and we were drinking, and I got him to try a Shirley Temple, and then I got him to try Dirty Shirley's, and so that was like my claim to fame, is that he was drinking Dirty Shirley's all night with me.
There you go. It's a tasty drink. I will have
Okay,
those on occasion.
yeah. Do you have any pets? And
I
if
do.
so,
I have two dogs. I have Pearl and Rudy, and they are the best.
what kind are they?
Pearl is a Coton de Tulier, which is one of those little white puffy dogs,
Okay, cute.
and Rudy is a Cavaton, which is bred to be a mix of the Coton and the and a King Charles Cavalier, and they do that so that they don't shed. I don't. Here,
Oh, look at
here you
you.
go, right there. There's. Let's see. There
Oh,
they
there
are.
they are. They're
Oops,
little cute
yikes.
babies.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
cute.
adorable. What
Okay,
else
so
you got?
what is your biggest pet peeve?
Man, uh, you know what? I don't have one. I don't have time for that. The second I let that stuff get into my head, it'll just annoy me to no end. I guess my biggest pet peeve is somebody that leaves a public restroom in less than perfectly pristine shape. I
Okay.
mean, leave it perfect. Leave no trace, like the Boy Scouts.
I can't wait to see this video, the Ed versus
Yeah,
bathrooms.
yeah, it's gonna be a
Um,
fun one.
if you could meet anyone in history, past or present, who would it be and why?
I've thought about that before. You know, I always thought I would have a nice time, and he's still alive, so it's possible, but he's 94. I think Mel Brooks. I think I would have liked to have just had like a long deli lunch with Mel Brooks, you know, the funny filmmaker, and just eaten some corned beef and pastrami, and just sat for an hour, matzo ball soup, the whole thing.
I love it. That's such a New York answer, I feel like. What is your comfort food?
Ooh, probably cereal. Yeah, it's a
Really?
bowl of cereal. Yeah, I mean that's why I got into those videos so much. It was just coming from the heart.
Okay. Do you have any like weird superstitions or anything like lucky that you hold on to for good luck or something?
No, no,
No.
I can't say that. The phrase that I always go back to, I don't know if you're going to ask me for my favorite phrases, but since it ties into this, but men plan and God laughs,
Okay.
except in Yiddish it's Mensch plagt und Gott lacht, and that one is one of my things. And then, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And I think the commonality in both of those things is just sort of that idea, and why I don't have any superstitions is just, you can plan for stuff, but you can't plan for the stuff that's going to actually happen. I mean, look
I
at
was
this
about to say
virus.
2020.
You know, you just got to be flexible.
Yeah, I understand. I've had to cancel my wedding twice. So
Yeah.
totally understand. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
When I was younger, I was a morning person. Now I definitely think I'm a night owl, but my night ends at about 10:30. So I don't know. Maybe I'm neither. I don't know
Okay.
when I hit my
You're a
sweet spot.
napper. That's what you are. You like
Yeah.
naps. How do you like your steaks cooked?
Medium. Yeah,
Medium.
I can't go too rare because I don't like anything that's too chewy, but I also want it to have a little bit of that good juice in it, so I don't want to go too well done. So right around medium, that's where I take a burger. I know
Okay.
it's boring. It's
No, I
boring,
like
but
it. I mean, you had
yeah.
an explanation behind it.
Yeah.
If you were a color, what would it be and why?
I think blue. I think it's a happy color. I think when people go out and they see a blue sky, it makes them smile, and I like to see myself that way.
Okay. If you could describe 2020 to your future grandchildren in one sentence, what would it be?
Um, it was I've in one sentence, I would say, you know what? It was a year that we learned a lot of lessons, whether we wanted to or not.
There you go. I like it. Well, Ed, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No
Enjoyed
problem.
so much.
My pleasure anytime. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Carson.
Bye,
Bye.
Ed.